What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. It's Monday, it's time, and it's time for the mock draft Monday. We got a boatload for you guys today. We're doing an auction draft that I did a few days ago. We're going to go over that one. We're going to go over on 2 underdog drafts I did this past week, and then we're going to do a live normal mock draft and redraft league after that. So boatload of drafts to go over today. I'm going to touch on a lot of different things, but first, got to start things off the side of the day. You guys see it on the screen. Yesterday's stat was what team led the league in interceptions thrown per game last season. Answer, the Denver Broncos. I don't know who gets that right because I always have to record the mock draft Mondays on Friday. And also, if I talk about a player who gets hurt this weekend, I apologize. Just skip over that part. We're going to talk about so many players that it's not really going to matter, but I have to record these on Fridays, so I haven't seen the games other than the Patriots and Eagles game, which I think the only injury there was non-Keel Harry, or at least the skill players. Today's stat. Who had the longest reception in the NFL last season? Okay, so this is the auction draft. I did it on ESPN, if you guys are wondering. It's really the only site that you can even do auction mock drafts on, at least that I know of. It was pretty decent, I would say, for the majority of the draft. Everyone was there, so that was good. And everyone was there for the most important parts, which was the first 60, 70 players. But yeah, so auctions are definitely different. I definitely recommend people try them out. I've had my best team ever, probably my second best team ever, doing an auction draft. Almost went undefeated. But then I won every single game except for the championship, which is pretty depressing. Lost the championship. But anyways, they're pretty interesting. I'm going to go over some tips for them. Oh, and also, if you guys don't play an auction, number one, you can just listen to the players I'm going to talk about in this video. But also, there's timestamps in the description. So if you're I don't want to listen to auction content, then you can just go over to the underdog content. If you don't want to see that, you can go over to the mock draft. After that is timestamped where you want to see. But I'm going to talk about players here so you can still watch it. And I do think everyone should try it out. Even if you don't want to maybe play in it, do a mock draft and auction just to see. Because obviously in normal formats, one person has the ability to draft Christian McCaffrey, right? Just one person in the entire league. He's going to go first overall. And even if you think about other players, some guys just go in the late second, so you're just not going to get them if you have a late or mid first round pick. And maybe you really, really like a player and you're forced to reach really far to get them. So I think auction is just fair. There are definitely going to be some players that you like that someone else likes, and there's a huge bidding war and you just can't get them. But for the majority of players, it's you can just get the players that you like, and you can build a whole team around that. Number one here. So this is the how much I spent. And this left team is what I did. This column indicates something that looking back at the draft, it's maybe a position I would have changed. I would have taken someone else to upgrade the team. And then if the player's in red over here and over here, that just means that's the player. I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to make it more clear. It's pretty clear with this middle column. That's what I'm changing. But I, going back, would not have taken Kyler Murray for $13. I should have just taken Aaron Rodgers for $5 and use some of that savings, as we're going to get to see, I guess we'll see right now. I think the only problem with this team is that my wide receivers are a little bit too thin. I knew for a fact that in auction drafts, everyone gets really, really excited, especially in a real draft. People get excited early, and they start spending up on studs. And while you need studs, they get to the point where they're in the middle rounds, and these players are still really, really good, and they go for significantly less than they should be able to go for. So I was still able to get a ton of really good wide receivers. Claypool for $9, Jerry Jeudy for $8, Devonta Smith for $4 because everyone ran out of money. Mooney for $1, Gallup for $3, Curtis Samuel for $3, Mike Williams for $2. So you're going to get huge values. So you don't need to be afraid to spend because you can get those values. But also be aware that you don't have to overpay for your first receiver. My problem was I think you needed one. I think I needed one better receiver, Claypool and Jeudy and Devonta. I think that's going to be fine as a core. This is a 12-team league, by the way. But I feel if I'm trying to win a championship, I probably need one that has a little bit higher ceiling. And so it would have been better for me to spend up on Devonta Smith or to spend up on Deontay Johnson. I keep Claypool, Jeudy, Devonta Smith. I think all of that was great. I keep Mooney. I basically just changed Gallup into Deontay Johnson with that money that I saved going down from Kyler into Aaron Rodgers. You should always spend $1 on defense and kicker. I happen to spend $1 on the Bucks, but the Butker pick, that was just the last round, and I had $5 left over, $6 left over, so I could spend $2 on him. It didn't really matter. but spend $1 on defense and kicker. You're going to find running backs, wide receivers you can do for $1. So I could have taken Jacoby Myers, Brian Edwards, Stevenson, guys like that for $1. That's going to help me save and just spend up on one more player. But I generally am going to just do like the anchor running back strategy if I'm in auction, just because I think it's the best strategy this season. And it's like modified. I took Christian McCaffrey and I took Aaron Jones. I would like to get, 2 top 7 running backs. I was kind of waiting because everyone was like really paying up. It was like McCaffrey went for 80, but then guys like Cook and Henry and Kamara, they were still going in like the 70s. And I was like, well, I can't really do that. Like if you're going to spend $80 on McCaffrey, you probably can't spend someone into the 70s. But I was trying to find who's like a first round running back that's going to go in the 50s. I thought Aaron Jones was a really nice value at 55. But yeah, you probably can't afford to spend like 2 top 4 running backs, but just trying to get someone else in the first round. Because once I did that, I knew that I'm just spending like $3 on running back. For the rest of the draft, I end up spending $5 because I just had a little bit of money left over. You can see there. But you're going to get fine running backs late for a few dollars. And so if you spend up really high on 2 of them, well, now you can just get like Mostert, Drake, Melvin Gordon. Not guys that I'm like super excited about. I think that Trey Sermon only went for like I think it was like $4. So he would have been a nice value. But you're going to find someone late cheap. Like I could have gone with Stevenson for $1 if I needed to, like I said before. And yeah, but that's generally my strategy in an auction draft is like get these stud running backs, because some of the stud wide receivers are going for way too much money. And we have, I have on the website recommended price points for every format. So like if you're in 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 team leagues, how it would change based on that. And like all the wide receivers coming off the board really expensive. And then there's this weird jump down to where it's like this next tier is underpriced. And so I would rather spend up at running back, grab a bunch of these awesome young wide receivers I like for cheaper. And then quarterbacks, that's one thing. Quarterbacks go way too cheap in an auction format. Every single quarterback is underpriced. So it's up to you what you do with that. You're going to get a fantastic quarterback for very, very cheap. It depends. Like if you want to use that as an opportunity to say, I'm going to take like Tannehill for $1. I'm going to take maybe spend $2 and grab like Trey Lance and Kirk Cousins, a combination like that. And so Cousins is starting the season. Trey Lance will probably start after like a month. And now you've got like a really good combination because I think Cousins has a really nice start to the season. And you only spent $2. But my thinking is like the fact that like Kyler goes for 13 and like the wide receivers that go around him typically in a draft go for like 25, you're just getting a huge value. So I pretty much just want a really, really good quarterback. Again, I'm cool taking like a Rodgers. I don't need a top 3, top 4 quarterback. But if you can find a way to like maybe you don't hit on 2 running backs, you only get one of the elite running backs, you should probably be spending up at quarterback because they're undervalued every single one of them, and so I want to get one of the really good ones. But yeah, do drafts out and see what happens there. And then just a general tip for auction leagues: if there's a stud player you like or you don't like you really don't want Derrick Henry this season, you want to nominate them early. Maybe you really don't like Calvin Ridley for some reason, you want to nominate them really early because that's when people have a lot of money. That's when people see Calvin Ridley and they're like, ooh, I want him. And that's when they're spending up more. As you wait later, if you nominate someone you don't like as much, well, no one has as much money now. So they're not going to be into like a bidding war with each other and they might get them cheaper. So you don't want to nominate the players you like. You do late in drafts because that's how you get people for $1. So like the only way you can get Mooney for $1 is if you nominate them and then no one else bids. But that's like late. That's really late in the draft. What you want to do early on is not be nominating the players you like. If you like Aaron Jones, you want to hope that he's like still on the board for a while because then his name pops up in like the 3rd round and no one has any money left and maybe you can get him for cheaper. So those are general tips for auction leagues. Again, this was ESPN. It could be different depending on your format. It's going to be different depending on like who you're playing with. Everyone has a different personality, but that's generally what I've seen in auction. I really do recommend that people do auction drafts because they are fun. They are like fair. You can attack anyone. You can do any strategy you want. So I think you guys should try them out. Now we'll move on to Underdog. We've got 2 to show you. And I think this is interesting because I took Derrick Henry to start in both of them. I don't remember. Did I have... Okay, I had the 4 and the 3 pick. So very different or very like similar, picks there. But the teams turned out slightly differently. I did 2 different strategies. And I thought that was just interesting to see. Like if you start out with the exact same player to start, you could still end up with a different team. So in one of these, I went with Tannehill and Tua, two guys that I use a lot on underdogs. It's so easy to stack with them. And on the other one, I loaded out quarterback. I went with Dak and Russell Wilson. So we'll see how my teams kind of differ. So, and I'll pull up the draft boards after, but I kind of want to look at this view first. One of them is in what last season was the best build. 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 10 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. Under this build, I went with 2 tight ends because I took George Kittle really early. That's the 3rd round. So I went with Derrick Henry. Then I grabbed A.J. Brown in the 2nd round, and I went with Kittle in the 3rd round. Because I grabbed Henry and A.J. Brown, to me, that said I need to go after Tannehill because I want access to these games where the Titans score, 40 or score into the 30s. We kind of know where most of that production is coming from, and so those spiked weeks, I want that. I also know that every single week I'm getting someone. So if there's a week that Tannehill and A.J. Brown don't go off, I have enough wide receivers to make up for that. I have a good enough quarterback to get by, and I know for pretty high certainty that Derrick Henry went off, and so my team is still doing very well. So I really like the Tannehill, Henry, A.J. Brown stack, and then I actually grab Ferkser as well because once you grab a Kittle, a Kelsey, a Waller, if you want to grab another tight end, you do it at the very, very tail end of the draft. But that was generally my strategy in this one. It was I took Derrick Henry, I got that A.J. Brown stack, I grabbed one running back in the middle, Kareem Hunt, just someone that I knew was going to get some sort of points. Tony Pollard for upside, Xavier Jones for upside, and then I said, that's it. Derrick Henry is going to be good enough to just lock in one running back every single week. Kareem Hunt is fine that if you just took his points on any given week, it's fine for running back 2. So that was a safe pick, and then I just took 2 upside picks. And someone in Pollard that I think can consistently get some points, so it's not a complete 0. But as you guys know, if I have a top 4 pick, I'm only taking 4 running backs. And then wide receiver, I'm just loading out. I'm just saying, hey, who's got a ton of weekly upside? A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Claypool, Devonta Smith, Waddle to pair with Tua, Pittman, Watkins, Tyrell Williams, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm not even sure about the Adam Humphries pick. Again, I want high weekly upside because I'm basically saying I'm just going to win this with volume. I took a running back in the 1st and a tight end in the 3rd round. So I didn't spend up super high at wide receiver. But I know that of this grouping, every single week, someone is going off. One of these dudes is going off. So all I need to do is not spend up to get Tyreek Hill or to get Adams. I can match that production by grabbing a ton of wide receivers and still getting those points. And then, of course, I talked about tight end there. So that was the thing behind that team. A slightly different build for the other one. I went 2-4, 9 wide receivers, 3 tight ends. Only different ones, I didn't grab Kittle. So my first tight end was Noah Fant. So I grabbed Fant, Irv Smith, Austin Hooper. Now I have 3 of them because I don't have a stud, and so I'm not relying on one guy to do a lot of the production. Now 3 of them can rotate in and do all of that production. Again, very similar build. Grab Derrick Henry. Grabbed Carter. Wasn't in love with it, but it was a really nice value. He was going a lot later than he usually does. But again, I don't really love Carter, but I didn't want to spend a lot of draft capital since I already had Derrick Henry. So grabbed Carter. A.J. Dillon a little bit after that. And then Xavier Jones late. I just think Xavier Jones is a good late pick. But I think maybe I should have grabbed Stevenson in one and Jones in the other one. But again, this one's the Dak and Wilson team. So now I need stacks with those guys. And I did that. So I only did this because in round 2 and 3, I was able to get Metcalf and CeeDee Lamb. And I was like, okay, this would be a really, really nice stack if I can have a Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb stack and a Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf stack to go along with Derrick Henry. And that's kind of the unfairness with having a top 4 pick, right? Because being able to grab Henry and then completely abandon the position for a while is such an advantage to me because now I've probably got better quarterbacks than everyone. I've got one of the best running backs in the game. I've got, a stack that not many people can really have. And then I'm still good at wide receiver. I still wanted high weekly upside. Thielen, Claypool, AJ Green, I think, can have touchdown upside. Gabriel Davis could have touchdown upside on the Bills. Dami Brown, deep play upside. Eskridge was a stack also with Wilson. I think he could score some touchdowns. Colin Johnson, big play upside. So I think the receivers are still good. And then Irv Smith and Hooper just getting there with volume. So if you guys wanted to see the draft boards, here it is for, was this the first one? No, it's the second one. This is the one I just went over. So like pause the screen if you want to see like exactly how everything worked out in this one. But again, anchor running back, grab that running back early, load out wide receivers. In this one, I went with 2 quarterbacks, go back to your running backs, finish off tight end, and then grab all your high upside wide receivers. That's kind of how that one worked out. And then slightly different build. In this one, grabbed the running back early, still loaded out wide receivers, but I mixed in a tight end here, which meant I could load up more wide receivers later. Grabbed 1 running back middle, a lot of wide receivers, 2 of the quarterbacks, running back, and then we loaded out wide receiver for the last 6 rounds as well. And I say the Adam Humphries one, I'm kind of not sure exactly how I feel about Humphries on Underdog, because one line of thinking is like he shouldn't be going that late because he's going to be on the field a lot. He's pretty much locked into their like slot receiver role. He's got good chemistry with Fitz. But on the other hand, it's like I think he's going to be really solid and he's going to provide production, but I feel like he's better under a build that kind of went heavy at running back, heavy at quarterback and tight end, and you're just looking at wide receivers that it's like, I just want to make sure that like I've got 3 guys every week that are fine. I feel like that's a better build because you know he's going to have production, as opposed to my build, which was I'm grabbing like 9 and 10 guys that have high weekly ceilings. Like I'm just trying to hit it with volume. I don't think the weekly ceiling of Humphries is all that high. I think he's going to have a lot of weeks where maybe it's like 5 or 6 receptions, 50, 60 yards, maybe mixes in a touchdown. And even in those weeks, I don't think he's making my starting lineup on that team. So I don't think it was a great pick. I think under a different build would have been better, but I feel like I was up against the clock in that one. And I didn't love my other options, but I think if I like put more time into that pick, I think maybe we could have done a better one. So now we will do the normal draft. We are going to use like all the pre-draft rankings on Yahoo, ESPN, NFL, so it's a mixture of everything you guys are going to see. We're going to do a 14-teamer in this one because we've done a lot of like 10, 12-team leagues. We're going to do 14 teams in this one. Typical setup, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, 7 bench. We'll randomize the draft order. I put high emphasis on quarterbacks because that's something you guys say a lot. So quarterbacks should go earlier than they do on average, and we will randomize, but not. So we did 10 last time. We're not going to do 9, 10, or 11. Anything else? Oh, not a top 4 pick because we've already done enough of that. 7. All right, 7 works. I feel like 7's fine. I don't really know. We have the page though on the website. Yeah, 7's not a terrible pick. I guess also 14 teams. I'm not as tuned in on 14 teamers. So we'll pull up the draft board once it like unfreezes. But yeah, I have the page on the website. So if you guys want to know, you're an 8, you're in a 14, 16 team league. How many, like what picks do you want? Because like in the subscriber league and in my hometown league, you get randomly assigned a number. So say I got 7 here. That means I get to pick my draft spot 7th. So whoever pulls 1 gets to pick first, and they're obviously going to take Christian McCaffrey. They're going to take the number 1 pick. And most people are going to take a top 4 pick for the first 4. But after that, it's like maybe you like a late first-round pick. Maybe you like a middle first-round pick. So you get to kind of decide what you want to do that way. And so if you don't know, you pick 8th. You're like, I don't know what the 8th best like option is. We have a page on the website. Again, it's in the description, or it's in like the bottom of the screen. Oh, no, it's actually not in the bottom of the screen on the mock drafts. But thefantasyfootballadvice.com. There's a link to it in the description. I have a page that ranks them all out. So 1 through 16, what are the best and worst draft spots based off of value? I don't know what 7 is, but I think it's like fine. I don't really know. So, or actually I'll pull that up and we'll go over it, but it was pretty normal. So the draft started off McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, Henry, Kelsey, Elliott. Cook's probably always going to go second, especially if this is a half PPR draft. But that's a pretty normal top 6. This 5 spot's going to change. Sometimes it'll be Adams, sometimes Zeke, sometimes Kelsey. It's probably going to be one of those 3. But you're going to see Kelsey go early a lot. So obviously tight end we're not looking at. Obviously quarterback we're not looking at. Our decision is basically down to, do we take Aaron Jones or do we take Adams? I'll pull up the rankings here. I have moved Adams up in the rankings. And remember when I did the video breaking down this, I don't even remember what we came to in the video, but I know that, actually, I think it was Jonathan Taylor first, but then, of course, after the video, we see the Carson Wentz injury, so then Jonathan Taylor moved to last. Then I think it was Aaron Jones, then it was Adams, then it was Kelsey. I don't really remember. You guys can watch the video to check up on that one. But the new rankings have it Adams. I'll tell you right now, half PPR has at 5 Adams, 6 is Zeke, 7 is Aaron Jones, 8 is Kelsey. But realistically, I mean, we're looking at a 3-point projection difference between Zeke and Aaron Jones. So it's like they're effectively the same pick. I think I moved Aaron Jones down because of was it hamstring? He had a little bit of injury, but I'm not concerned about that. And then Kelsey is like effectively tied with them in value. So these guys are all separated by like 1 or 2 fantasy points. You should just be like doing mock drafts and being like, how do I like my team if I start off with running back, start off with tight end, start off with wide receiver? We don't have the option to start off with tight end, and so we're going to do either Adams or Aaron Jones. I haven't seen the latest news about Aaron Jones' injury, but again, I'm not concerned about it. I have moved Adams up. It's not a big difference. Right? Yeah, it's a 0.3 value difference. I think that since we've done running back early in every single one of the mock drafts I've shown you today, I think it would be better to just go with our rankings, take Adams. But again, I'm cool if you guys just take like the player you like at that spot. If you're just like not comfortable foregoing a running back at 1 because you're not good with what you're going to see at the next round, well then don't, right? Don't take Adams, just take the running back. You guys need to do mock drafts and see what you're comfortable with. But honestly, if you follow the rankings, it'll be fine. So after we go, we see Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones. That's a really nice value. Jones, Barkley, Tyreek Hill goes at 12, and then 13, 14, finish off the first round with Eckler and Mixon. Second round, we see Gibson, Diggs, Ridley, Najee Harris, A.J. Brown, Carson, and Hopkins. So we've seen almost the first tier of wide receiver off the board, or like not the first tier, because the first tier literally has 1 wide receiver and it's Adams, but the first the elite bunch of wide receivers off the board. If we go to the rankings, Gibson's gone. Unfortunately, that would have been a really nice pick. It is going to look like a DK Metcalf, who is a target and has a fire icon, should be going off the board 19th overall. He's at 22 overall right now. That is the top player in the rankings. Or is it... I was going to say, has Nick Chubb gone? I was like, wait a minute, is Nick Chubb on the board? No, Nick Chubb went 1 pick after me. But yeah, we'll pull up the board here. So again, I guess now we have like kind of the option to take tight end. I don't have that going in the rankings. I have Waller at 22. I think it'd be really neat to start off with Metcalf here. And he's next in the ranking, so I think we do it. Are we going to do an RB0 build? I haven't done one of those in a very long time. It's a completely viable build. I'm interested to see if we can do RB0 in a 14-team league. But wide receiver, we're basically just competing with this team over here. That was Tyreek Hill and Ridley for like the best wide receiver duo. But oh my goodness, Adams and Metcalf every week. I mean, they could each be scoring like 35 points some weeks. That is a really, really nice start. So let's see what comes off the board. So Waller and Kittle both come off the board. I definitely would have taken either one of them if they were there in the 3rd round. Mahomes also goes off the board early or late 2nd round, which means we're not going to be taking a quarterback here. Running backs we have to go off the board is Clyde, Sanders, Swift, Henderson, and Dave Montgomery. Would have really liked Henderson and Montgomery. And then for wide receivers, we see Jefferson. If I said wide receivers before, I meant running backs. Wide receivers, we see Jefferson, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, and Julio. Those guys would have been nice as well. Probably wouldn't have taken Julio. Okay. So top options on the board. Again, we're not going to go with, definitely not going to go with tight end. We're probably not going to go, I would probably want to wait till the 4th round to take one of the quarterback, so we're probably not going to go there. We have an option of definitely taking Dobbins. I feel like Dobbins might be, because Swift is gone, Montgomery. Yeah, so Dobbins is the last, for me, tier 4 running back. There's definitely a drop-off after Dobbins, so that might be a really nice option. Looking at wide receivers, Lamb is the last tier 4 wide receiver. Keenan Allen starts off tier 5, not a huge difference there. So if I had taken a running back at one point, it probably would have been really, really nice to grab Lamb there. And a really cool start would be to go with Adams, Metcalf, and Lamb. We're just locked and loaded. You at that point know that you're not starting a running back in the flex, so you only need 2 of them because, those 3 wide receivers are just not going to bust unless there's an injury. For a fact they're going to be a huge part of the offense. But I'd be a little bit concerned with what running backs we're going to get the next round. There's a possibility that my starting running backs might need to be that Hunt, Etienne, Javonte Williams, Chase Edmonds range. And I do feel like there's a pretty big drop-off after J.K. Dobbins. And I don't love what my team would look like, I think, if I didn't take Dobbins there. And also Dobbins is ranked slightly ahead of everyone else. So he was 25th. What was it? We were like 34, something like that. And literally, yeah, that's where it was. It was like Hunt, Etienne. Yeah, it was these guys were going to be our top running back, which I wouldn't be in love with. So we see the only running backs to come off the board are Mike Davis and Jacobs. So we can consider grabbing another running back, which might be like a smart option for us. Only wide receiver, or only quarterback that comes off the board is Josh Allen. A lot of wide receivers. So Keenan Allen, Lamb, Evans, Woods, Godwin, Cooper, Brandon Ayuk, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson. Those guys all come off the board late 3rd, early 4th round. We see Pitts and Hawkinson off the board. So not looking, we could do Andrews, but I don't think Andrews is the move here because I don't think he's like a screaming value. If someone's a screaming value tight end, we do it. But he's not a screaming value. Maybe we look there in the next round. And I think that if we went with him, we're passing on Kyler Murray, who's fantastic. We're passing up on running back because we're a little bit thinner at running back. And so those 2 positions are kind of important to our build right now. And this is why a lot of people ask, well, do I draft based off the rankings or based off of need? You saw for the first 3 picks here, we drafted based off the rankings. These were the top players available in the rankings. Not too much strategy into the picks. We talked about maybe going RB0, but it was if there were no running back options, we maybe went RB0. But now we need to think about positional need. For us, wide receiver is less valuable. We already have Adams and Metcalf. They're going to be locked and loaded wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 on our roster every week besides week 9 and 13 or when they're hurt. And so because that's the case, adding a Cooper Kupp, a Tyler Lockett, sure, that's fine in the flex, but it's less valuable to us because we can only use them in the flex, right? But if I grab running back here, I have the option to put them at running back 2. They could break out and be running back 1, or they could be used in the flex. And just the fact that, number 1, running backs are more valuable when they hit. And number 2, there's a huge drop-off. I think there's a lot of wide receivers we can get late that are really solid. And so even if Cooper Kupp, I feel like he might be, let's see. Cooper Kupp, yeah, so Cooper Kupp is the top player. Well, no, actually it's Kyler Murray. But if we were just looking at skill positions, he's the top skill position player available. But to my team right now, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. If I'd gone running back heavy, well, yeah, Cooper Kupp's just a slam dunk. Do that because he's going to be really, really good this season. He just doesn't help my team as much. So once you get into the 4th, 5th round, you need to think more about what is your team going to look like if you make this pick and less about what do the exact rankings say. So it's more positional rankings now. So you would just go in and click the tab that says running back, click the tab that says wide receiver, and then maybe draft based off that. Kind of like this is doing here, pretend these are my rankings. You don't want to be okay, I kind of need a running back, top guy, Hunt. Let's just go sort by running backs here. Jacobs off the board. It'd be Hunt, then Etienne, then Javonte Williams, then Chase Edmonds, which is exactly how they have the rankings here. So I think the decision for me is down to Hunt, or we grab like a Kyler Murray. I did post a video on the website, a premium video, talking about the value of quarterback and tight end, how it changes in different formats. A quick thing there is like it was more for 8 and 16 team leagues. 10 and 12 operate very similarly to a 12-team league in terms of positional value. But I will say that like just thinking about like if you have one of these elite quarterbacks and you're going up against a team that's going to have to wait and draft someone like Joe Burrow, like I think Burrow can be good, but I think Kyler's a huge edge over that. And so when you get into 14, like there's now 2 more starting quarterbacks, and you're getting a little bit weaker, and so you're just getting a little bit more of an edge there. So I think maybe we go. I want to see how many picks different is Kyler versus. So Kyler is 34th in my rankings, and Kareem Hunt is all the way down at 58. So a really, really big drop off there. So we're going to do it. We're going to take Kyler. We know that means we're probably not going to get one of those running backs I talked about there. It'd be really nice if we got one of those like 4 or 5 that I mentioned. Unlikely to happen. Oh my goodness. We've done it. So it looks like Kareem Hunt didn't even come off the board at this pick. Okay, so the running backs that come off the board, they actually make sense. So Etienne, Gaskin, everyone loves Damian Harris for some reason, and then Chase Edmonds come off the board. And then we see Lamar, we see Dak. I think Kyler would have come off the board before these two. And then wide receivers, we see Kupp go right after us. Then Thielen, Lockett, Galladay, Higgins, and Jamar Chase. So we're definitely going to take Kareem Hunt now. It's not even like a real decision point for us. And I think we look over here at our team. I think we're really, really even. This is like a really nice build so far. We've got our stud in Kyler. We've got our stud wide receivers in Adams and Metcalf. And I think Dobbins and Hunt are providing good value to like what our team needs. We don't need our running backs to be dominant. We need them to produce for us. We just need to not get duds. And I think Dobbins is pretty much bust proof. We know for a fact he's going to be awesome this season. He's not necessarily going to be like a top end running back, but he's going to be consistent. He's going to get us points every single week. Kareem Hunt, well, he's going to break out if Chubb goes down, but he's still going to provide us with touchdowns, with receptions, with rushing yardage. So he's still going to be fine. That's all we need at running back 2 on this team. We just need it to be fine. So now we're even at those spots. We can consider tight end, but we're in the 6th round, and Logan Thomas is not a 6th round pick. So as much as I love Logan Thomas, it's like we can take Thomas. We can take Tunyon, who I'll go over when we go at tight end. I've been too critical on Tunyon. We can go with Higbee, Irv Smith. Then there's a pretty big drop off. I would like one of them, but we can definitely wait there. And we're not doing quarterback because we already have one. So now we're pretty even. We can go over wide receiver, or we can go over running back. So we'll pull up. I know we don't need to pull up the draft board. I already showed you guys that. So if I go over to the rankings, I sort by running back and wide receivers. So we're looking at flex now. Top guy on the board, Ayuk is unfortunately gone. Judy? No, that's sad. So it's going to be Devonta Smith or Sermon. It's going to basically be what direction we want to go with there. If we think about, it's pretty even. We don't even need to know like which turn for ours. We're right in the middle of the draft, so there's no real like short turn for us. If you think about running back, if we don't take Sermon, I'm imagining this will kind of be off the board. Our third guy is, we're not going to handcuff, probably A.J. Dillon. It'll be what we're looking at the next round. Not fantastic. I guess there's like a chance that Sermon's still on the board. They have him going in a few picks though, so that's probably not going to happen. For Devonta Smith, do we think there's a chance Smith is on the board in the 7th round? Maybe. And if we don't get Smith, we'd be looking at like Antonio Brown, LaVisca. I think there's more options for us if we miss out on Smith. Like we really, really want Smith, but I think there's more options for us here. So we'll secure Sermon because there's less options at running back. And Sermon was slightly higher. Sermon was, I lost him. Sermon was 66. Devonta Smith was 71. Unfortunately, Smith does go off the board. That's sad. Where did he go? Late 6th round. Okay. So after our pick, we do end up taking Sermon. Now our running backs are Dobbins, Hunt, and Sermon. And just a quick take on Sermon. I think that like Sermon and Mostert are both like solid values. You obviously don't want to be taking both of them. Both could be really good this season. Both probably need an injury to the other one to like truly break out. They're going to rotate in. They're going to rotate in even a third running back. But this is going to be such a good offense, such an efficient offense that if either one of them starts getting like 60% of the touches, like that's all you need to just crush it. And I think Sermon is more talented than Mostert. I think he's more likely to do so. And so Sermon should be ranked ahead of Mostert. But Mostert's still a fine pick. If Mostert starts falling in your draft, like they're still going to use him. He's going to be incredibly efficient this season. He'll still be perfectly fine. So I think grabbing one of them is not like a bad idea. After we go, Goddard and Jonnu Smith come off the board. We see Aaron Rodgers come off the board. We see Moss, Mostert, and David Johnson come off the board. And then a lot of wide receivers. Unfortunately, a few we talked about. Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Debo, our boy Devonta Smith, Antonio Brown, and Chark all come off the board. But as we said before, we're not in love with these running backs here. And there's like some that we can kind of target a little bit later. But we're not in love with what we're seeing in like this range. I will say that it wouldn't be a horrible idea for us to take James Robinson. It really does look like it's going to be a committee approach. And if we think that offense is going to be solid, we think that offensive line is going to be better than people think. We think they might play faster than people think. James Robinson's clearly going to have a role. Like, he's not a bad pick. And he's especially not a bad pick if he can start off really hot for the first like 3 weeks. Maybe he scores like 2 touchdowns in the first 3 weeks. He's getting, like 12, 13 carries a game. Like, you can definitely flip him for something early in the season, because I'm pretty sure Etienne's going to like slowly take more work, but not everyone knows that. And so if he can start off really nicely, even if it's on your bench, or maybe you are using him in the flex over Sermon to start, you probably would be. You'd kind of consider matchups at that point. I don't really know who each one plays. I don't really know what our wide receivers that'll be on the bench play, but the point is, like, he could start off really nice, and running backs are so scarce. So, like, if there's an injury early, if there's someone who drafted bust, and, like, you want to trade Robinson to them early, it could be a sharp thing to do. And also, he just might have a role and might be pretty valuable early in the season. You might need that. So it wouldn't be a bad idea taking Robinson. Not in love with Connor. We're not taking Fournette. Drake was fine when we were spending, like, $1 on him, but that was just because he was going late and he cost $1 in our auction draft. Like, I don't really want to draft him too much here when it costs like a 7th round pick. But it would basically be Robinson, Dillon, Jamal Williams, Tony Pollard, Lindsey. Those are the guys we like, but a lot of them we're not obviously taking at this pick. So basically it's James Robinson. Do we want to take James Robinson? Or do we want to go over to wide receiver? Again, we only have Adams and Metcalf, but like realistically, we don't need too much more than that. And like I always say, man, maybe we don't, because maybe like there's just so many wide receivers that go late that are going to like be really, really good. Because we spent such high draft capital at wide receiver, I think we just go early and we go late. So maybe we don't take guys we love like Curtis and LaVisca and Mike Williams, Gallup, Marvin Jones, Mooney, Pittman, Waddle, Hardman, Elijah Moore. Like, there's so many. How many running backs are left that we like? Like 0. So maybe we do. We take Robinson. We now have 4 running backs we feel good about. So that's nice. We still have LaVisca, looks like he's going to be on the board our next pick. So yeah, again, you got to be thinking about that. What's going to be available at my next pick? Is running back going to basically like fall off a cliff? But after we go, we see a huge run at quarterback. Herbert, Hurts, Tannehill, and Brady come off the board. Running backs, we see Fournette, James Conner, Drake, Dillon, Gus Edwards, guys we thought would come off the board. Higbee comes off the board at tight end. And then we see Landry, Corey Davis, Curtis Samuel, and Jalen Waddle come off the board. So we are left with going to Logan Thomas now in the 8th round. Going with Laviska Shenault would be a fantastic option for us. Mike Williams, Michael Gallup. I don't know who I have. So I have Laviska at 74, Mike Williams at 77. Who was the other one? Michael Gallup. I don't see. I'll type in his name. GAL 99. So Gallup, I mean, they're all values here, but Laviska's a screaming value. What do we think? I can guarantee you one of our tight end options will be available. Maybe Logan Thomas comes off the board at this pick, but one of our tight end options will be there for the next pick. Whether it's Thomas, Tunyon, or Irv, I'm pretty sure one will be there. I prefer getting Tunyon or Thomas, but I don't really care which one between them. I did an update to the rankings. I'll give my I already gave him my Logan Thomas take like a week ago. I love him. But Tunyon I was being too critical on because he was hyper efficient last season. And I understand that. He is not going to be that efficient this season. But that doesn't matter if he's going to see more volume. It seems like they're really incorporating him more into the offense. It seems like he's become just a better wide receiver. So he's going to see natural regression. But as a player, he's had progression. He's been better. He's a better tight end this season. And every day we see Tunyon for another touchdown in camp, another touchdown. They're clearly going to feature him in the red zone. So it's maybe he's not historically efficient, but he'll still be very efficient. He's still playing with Aaron Rodgers. It's a very good offense. He's still going to be very good. So I was being overly critical on him. I think he's still a really nice option, that same range as Logan Thomas. And if we look at the players, or I guess computers, that we're drafting with, only one of them doesn't have a tight end. I'd say it's unlikely these guys especially with these guys taking a top end tight end, it's unlikely they would take a tight end. So I think we can forego one more round of tight end. We'll look at it after that. We take Laviska Shenault, who I think is going to have a fantastic second season. He's not your standard X receiver. That's going to be one of Chark or Marvin Jones. I don't personally know. I think it's definitely possible that Marvin Jones ends up being their top option. But Chark's still going to be used downfield. He'll still be fine. I think Marvin Jones will be used a lot in the red zone. But Laviska's going to be used on end arounds. He's going to get carries. He's going to get screen passes. He's going to be used still downfield sometimes. He'll be used in design plays in the red zone. He's going to be used all around the field. And so maybe he doesn't hit on 50-yard touchdowns like Chark and Marvin Jones will. But he's going to have consistent production. He's going to have a lot of receptions. He's going to mix in carries. He's still going to have touchdown upside. I just think he's so good with the ball in his hands. So I like that. And I'm not concerned taking Robinson and Laviska because I think they were both nice values. They play different positions. They weren't high draft capital. It's fine taking multiple players if you're really late. Okay. So I like how the team's turning out now. Now I think it's really nice to get Logan Thomas because now we see the drop-off. I'm still fine waiting till the very end of the draft and taking Ertz, Hooper, Kement, Everett, Irv Smith, we want to wait. I'm fine taking those guys, but and I'm kind of cooling on Troutman, by the way. But Logan Thomas is the last one where it's I think this dude could finish top 5, right? I don't really know that any of these guys can finish top 5. I think Logan Thomas could. Do I think he's going to? No, I don't have him ranked as a top 5 tight end, but I think he could. I think he's talented enough. I think the touchdowns could absolutely be there if they're utilizing him in the red zone. And I can't say that as much about the rest of these guys. Someone asked me why I'm cooling off on Irv Smith. I still like him. It was just that it's such a low volume passing attack that it's tough to see a scenario where he crushes his ADP. I think he'll produce well for his ADP, but it's tough to see a scenario where he crushes it. Also, we had that rule. I want a Washington football team player in every single one of my teams. And for this one, it's going to be Logan Thomas. So let's go over the team right now so we kind of know what we're doing with the bench. We still have 5 bench picks left. We've got starting lineup right now. Kyler Murray, J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, Devonta Adams, DK Metcalf, Logan Thomas, Trey Sermon. Still missing defense. Obviously, that'll be our last pick. And then bench is James Robinson and Laviska. So we've got 4 running backs, 3 wide receivers. We're not taking another quarterback. We're not taking another tight end. We've got 5 bench spots left. We're probably going to take 2 running backs to get us to 6, and then 3 wide receivers to also get us to 6. We're gonna make this one even. Typically, you're gonna want in a redraft setting like this, so not an underdog. You're gonna probably want more running backs just because it's more valuable to hit, and then we also want more running backs. And I'm not saying a bunch more, just one more. But we want more running backs on this bill because we know Adams and Metcalf are locked into 1-2. and like we're weaker at running backs. So we want more chances to hit on them. And also remember, there's a lot of later wide receivers that we like, so we can afford to maybe wait a little bit. We are heavily targeting Jacoby Myers, Bryan Edwards, Terrace Marshall for the exact reasons I talked about in the video for you guys today for me, but for you guys on Friday. Because we have those options, we can forego it for a little bit. We want to be careful because like they're obviously rising in the ADP because people are starting to catch on. But I think maybe we can wait one more round because I don't think all of them are going to come off the board at this pick. Wait one more round. So who's a running back? For this pick, we have different options. We go with upside, we go safety. I think Pollard kind of mixes everything there. But let's say Pollard was off the board. We could go with safety and take Bernard, someone that we know is going to get production. We know that like if Hunt or Dobbins got hurt or went on free agent or went on bye, we've got studs at all these other positions that we just need someone who's going to get us points, and Bernard will get us points. So we go with Bernard. Or we could pick someone who's going to like potentially break out. You know, you look at a guy, Darrell Williams if Clyde got hurt. Gainwell if you had multiple injuries for the Eagles. Marlon Mack if Jonathan Taylor got hurt. Guys like that where it's like if there's an injury, maybe something good can happen to our player. But Tony Pollard mixes all of that. He's going to get production normally anyways, but then he's also going to like running back one if Zeke went down. So that's a best of both worlds. And also don't pay attention to buys. Literally don't even use buys as a tiebreaker. It's completely ridiculous that people worry about buys so much. I will not be adding buys to the rankings. Don't even look at them. You have no idea what your team's going to look like in week 7. Also, your starting lineup is fine in week 7. It's just your bench that's on bye. And even if you look, it's like, oh no, you have 2 week 13s or 2 week 9s. It's like, who cares? I don't know. I have no clue what my team's going to look like in week 13. These guys could honestly be hurt. They could not be starting for me. Like Adams is probably going to be starting for me. But like I can figure out the bye weeks. It's totally fine. You don't know what your team's going to look like. Don't worry about them. So, now that that's done. Do we start attacking some of these wide receivers we're in love with? Or do we take one more running back? I would say take another running back if like Bernard was on the board or if there was someone that we needed to get. But like, let's be honest. This is what we want to do. We want to finish off this draft like this. 1, 2, 3, 1. I mean, that's ideal. So how do we make this happen is basically what we need to know. For them, they're saying Myers is first, then Bryan Edwards, then Marshall, then Stevenson. So if that's how we want to end the draft, let's do it. Let's take Myers, and then we'll see. Hopefully, we can kind of like beat out. Oh no! Where did Bryan Edwards go? Did he go right before us? He goes in the 12th round there. So we're not going to get our dream finish, unfortunately, but that's okay. We'll probably take Marshall at this pick. So we'll do that. Then we'll take Stevenson if he's on the board. Nice. He's going to be on the board. I'll pull up the draft board in a second. So we take Stevenson, and then we take... Oh, do we only need one running back? Had we already taken... So we don't need to take... No, Xavier Jones isn't even on the board. We didn't need to take Xavier Jones, right? Because we wanted 6 and 6. Dobbins, Hunt, Sermon, James Robinson. Wait, Dobbins, Hunt, Sermon, James Robinson. Yeah. Tony Pollard, Stevenson. Good there. And then we will take... realistically, AJ Green's probably the highest upside option still on the board. Still AJ Green. I know he might be dust, but you're taking him in the 14th round of a 14-team league. He's playing with a really good quarterback. He's playing across from one of the best wide receivers in the game. No attention's going to be drawn to him. Touchdown upside, weekly upside. He's a quality pick. As much as I think he could absolutely be dust. And then, could not tell you defense rankings, so we'll pull that up and then we'll go over the team. Oh, not many options on the board for us, unfortunately. All right, so between KC, New Orleans, Dolphins, Browns, Chargers, looks like Dolphins. Dolphins are the number 1 defense, only tier 10 running back. defense left. So we'll go with the Dolphins there. And then we'll look at our team. I think this one worked out really nicely. And if I feel like we would have gotten such a good grade if FantasyPros like experts actually like had correct rankings on some of these like sleepers. But I really like how this team turned out. Obviously, I would have preferred Bryan Edwards over AJ Green. That would have been a dream finish. If we could have gotten Myers, Marshall, Bryan Edwards, 3 guys I think can be really, really quality this season. Let's go along with Laviska on the bench behind Adams and Metcalf. Like, we're just set at wide receiver. I still think we're honestly set. I think Myers is going to be a huge value this season. Marshall can break out this season. Laviska is going to be great. So we're good at wide receiver. We're obviously good at quarterback with Kyler Murray. We're good at tight end with Logan Thomas, although that's one thing we're going to have to figure out during the season is he going to be good enough for us? Like, do we have to like make a change there? Do we need an upgrade if we're going to win a championship? We'll have to figure that out. But our biggest thing we need to figure out, aside from obviously like just streaming defense, is our running backs fine. So having Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, Sermon, James Robinson, Tony Pollard, Stevenson. In that group of 6, are there 2 of them that we can trust every week to win a championship? If the answer is no, do we need to pair like a really nice start to the finish? I hate to say it, start to the season. I hate to say it, but like if Myers starts off really hot and like Kareem Hunt has some nice weeks, can we flip Hunt and Myers for a better second running back? Or maybe Laviska starts off really hot and we can keep our love in Jacoby Myers, and we can do like Kareem Hunt and Laviska and upgrade this running back 2 spot. But that's what we're going to need to figure out is do we have enough of the running back production to win a championship? Again, in a 14-team league, I think we're going to be fine, but that's what we need to figure out. So that is an end to a very, very long Mock Draft Monday. Again, if you guys have your drafts coming up, please consider getting our draft package. It's got so much information, projections, values, sleepers, premium video content, access to our private chat. It's got everything you could possibly need and more. So check that out at the website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that'll do it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoy. If you did, and how about hitting that like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.